Hi, it's Erin Dalia from Mind Me, and today I'm bringing you another video on one of my adventures as I teach you ancient traditions for modern use. Each of these videos and all the content that I strive to bring forward are things that I have learned in helping build a bridge to a lifestyle I've always dreamed of, free of the different traumas that I've experienced in my life and definitely built on the pillars of the lessons that I've learned. So I hope that you enjoy this video and that you also find ways to bring it forward in your life to build a lifestyle that you've always dreamed of. Enjoy! Chicken bruschetta is a fairly easy meal to make. It takes about 20 minutes or less depending on how much you're making. I like to list out all of my ingredients on the counter as you've previously seen, which are also listed in the description below in this video. I'm going to start first by taking out my sausages. Now tonight I'm using a chicken and kale sausage, and I highly recommend if you want to, cut some of the fats or whatever out of it to use a chicken-based sausage. I like to cook my chicken sausages in crumbles, and so I'm just going to kind of rinse them off after I've taken out the package, and I'm going to cut the sausage the long way, the skin, and I'm going to essentially peel off the skin and crumble it up and cook it in my frying pan, which is heating up on the stove. I like the crumbles because it makes it easier to eat overall, but if you really like sausage and the whole case and the whole experience of eating a sausage, you can also grill this, you can pan fry them, you can oven cook them. I don't recommend using the microwave just because I'm not a huge fan of cooking in a microwave. Whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. So as I'm cooking the sausage, which I'm going to use the cover on and off throughout this process because I want to use the steam to ensure that my crumbles are cooked thoroughly, just because I know that they're going to be all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So I will let that cook as I start to prepare everything that is going to be the cold cut up and put into a bowl side. I'm going to start first with garlic. I love fresh garlic in almost everything that I eat. Now everybody has different reactions to garlic, especially raw garlic. So I like to cook probably around 2/3 of my chopped up garlic with the sausage as it's going to just really soften it, not brown it, because it does make it a little bit tangy in the flavor when you brown garlic too much. And then I'll put 1/3 of it raw into my bowl where I'm going to mix all of my tomatoes and my seasonings. Once that's done, you can see I've cut up the cherry-sized tomatoes. Now I'm using a Florida cherry tomato and an heirloom tomato. And because the tomatoes are so large, I am quartering them because I want to make them bite-sized pieces. It makes it easier, it makes for a better presentation, and it also helps the tomato bleed more into the juices that I'm going to create when I put the dressing on it as well. So once I've got the garlic done and I've got the tomatoes done and I'm constantly checking on my sausages and making sure that my garlic is not browning, I'm going to prepare the basil, which just means I'm going to pluck it off the stem. I've rinsed it. I'm not washing it too heavily. I do get it locally, so I know it's grown without any pesticides or other things that would be unappetizing. And I'm going to chop that up very fine because if you're like my family, you have picky eaters that don't like big green leafy things in their hot meals. So I like to chop it up really fine. Not only do I feel like I get a better disbursement out of my flavor, but I do feel like it makes it a little bit more palatable to the other picky eaters that might be at our dinner table. So at this point, I have put the tomatoes, the garlic, and the basil in the bowl, as you can see, and I've actually turned off the temperature on the sausages, and I'm about to pour them in hot into the cold products in the bowl and give them a good stir, starting to really mix them. That heat from the sausage is going to open up the flavor in the basil. It's just going to warm everything and really start to mix the seasonings. Now we're going to create our dressing. So I'm using a local California extra virgin olive oil, cold pressed, because I absolutely adore that flavor. And then I'm going to do probably about 2 tablespoons of white vinegar. Now I like a little bit of white vinegar because of that extra acidity does tend to break down the flavors a little bit better, and it adds a little bit of a tang to the background that is, on a lot of people, a savory feeling. Then I'm going to follow it up with probably around 4 or 5 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. My gauge for this is, depending on how much is in your bowl, I'm creating that juice. Now everybody's going to want to soak their bread or whatever you're serving this bruschetta over in that dressing. And to me, I'm really not trying to pull flavor away from the tomatoes or the chicken or the basil or the garlic. So I am just going to kind of mix it up together, make sure all the items are in there. I'm going to put in some salt and pepper, and that is it. I'm going to then toss this in the refrigerator for a little while so that it has time to marinate for maybe 10 minutes, depending on how quickly I am serving dinner. While the bruschetta mix is in the refrigerator kind of marinating together, I'm going to cut up my bread. Now this is an Italian loaf of bread I picked up from the local bakery. You can use sourdough, ciabatta, French baguette, whatever makes you happy. I prefer a crispier skin and a nice soft inside. As you can tell, I am also cutting probably around 1-inch slices that I'm going to pan fry in olive oil because I want that bread to soak up the dressing that I just made. I want it to help deliver every flavorful bite to my guests at the dinner table. And it also makes it just easier to fry in general. So definitely take the time to cut it up. As you can see, my slices are so big that I'm going to cut them in half because about 1 slice is what you're going to give a guest in 2 pieces, and that is a very healthy portion for this meal. So due to some malfunctions of life, I was not able to get me frying the bread, but I did want to go over it very quickly with you. I put about 1/2 inch of olive oil into a pan that is about medium to low temperature, and I wait for it to come up to heat. I am using, again, 100% extra virgin Californian olive oil. There's a book called Extra Virginity, The Truth About Olive Oil. I highly recommend that you read it. But for the purposes of this video, you will be continuing to put olive oil into the pan, so don't put your bottle away. The bread will fry very quickly. As you can see, I have a plate full of golden bread. So you constantly want to be checking the bottom with a pair of tongs. I don't put this on any type of paper towel to bleed off the olive oil because it is a beautiful flavor. The thick cut really does absorb a lot of it and actually adds to the flavor of your bruschetta. After the bread has been fried, I pull the bruschetta mix back out of the refrigerator, and now I'm going to add some cheese. I'm a cheese freak, so I absolutely do love a peppercorn romano grated. And then I'm going to add fresh mozzarella pearls, as you can see, into the mix. Now you can add this at the beginning of the mixture process when it's marinating in the refrigerator, but I do like the separation of a good mozzarella flavor with the balsamic vinegar. It will absorb that balsamic vinegar flavor, so if you do want to kind of have a contrast in that texture and taste experience, I do recommend putting the cheese in last. After the cheese is in, I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice stir. As you can see, the juice from the dressing and the tomatoes and everything has really welled up in the bottom of the bowl nicely. So it is going to make for an awesome presentation. At this point, I'm going to pull up a plate. I'm going to put on some bread. I'm going to cover it in some bruschetta, and I'm going to call it a day. Good afternoon, it is Erin, and I am really hoping that you just enjoyed my chicken bruschetta. Very quick, very easy, but very healthy opportunity to have for a lunch and or dinner. And I wanted to take a moment because as of this video right now, my last video on grief and dealing with the waves of grief and going through the center of the storm had over 1,000 views, and I just was like, thank you so much. I am so appreciative that everybody found value in that rather hard period, and not that it's not stopped for me, but that I've definitely gotten through, I think, the hardest parts of it. And so I hope that it helped you, the viewer, deal with whatever you were going through in the aspect of grief and loss as well. And I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe along to this YouTube channel, as I'm going to be continuing to bring you weekly videos and classes and tutorials about the intuitive lifestyle that I've built that helps me be me, helps me be a better part of this community that we're creating together. And in that spirit, I have created the Intuitive Self-Care Kit. So if you follow along, there is a link in the description below that will take you to a quick page that'll tell you all about it. It's completely free. Just sign up, say, hey, I'm here, I appreciate you, so that I can continue to help share and get feedback from the community about what other things about my lifestyle that you all want to hear about. And other little things that I do every day that are really intuitive to whatever I'm going through. So if I'm on the waves of emotions, if I'm having too much mental process, if I'm going through physical sensation, these are the tools that I use to bring myself back into an awareness and a balance so that I'm not making choices that aren't honoring me. I'm making choices that are helping me progress forward on my path. So my friends, from now until then, so much light, so much love. Have a great day.